Welcome to the STEM Talk. In just 30 minutes each month, join experts from across the STEM landscape as they provide factual information, practical strategies, and actionable resources to help you navigate the ever-changing world of STEM education, workforce development, policy, and advocacy. Hosted by the Afterschool STEM Hub, STEM Education Coalition, and STEM Ecosystems, the STEM Talk creates a safe space for dialogue while maintaining a focus on information that matters to you and the community that you serve. Today's episode is called The Tax Credit Opportunity, and it could be a real game changer for after-school and summer programs. Hi, my name is Jenny Frank, and I am the director of the STEM Ecosystem Initiative at TIES. With so much uncertainty around federal funding, there's actually a promising development that deserves your attention. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, H.R. 1, has established a federal tax credit that allows taxpayers to offset a portion of their federal tax liability by donating to eligible nonprofits that manage and award educational scholarships. And yes, this does include after-school, summer, and other out-of-school time programs. This program is scheduled to take effect in the year 2027, which means now is the time to better understand what does this opportunity look like, how your organization might position itself, and what steps you should be considering. I'm going to turn it over to our co-host Anita Krishnamurthy from the Afterschool Alliance to introduce today's special guest. Anita?
Thanks so much, Jenny, and welcome everyone. It really is great to see such a nice turnout for this webinar. I know you're all really interested in this topic. As Jenny said, I'm Anita Krishnamurthy, and I'm the Senior VP for STEM and Youth Civic Engagement at the Afterschool Alliance, and it is my real pleasure to introduce our Executive Director, Jodi Grant, as the expert guest speaker on this special episode of the STEM Talk. Jodi is a tireless champion for after-school and after-school STEM programs, helping to secure and protect billions of dollars in federal and state investments. She has a long and distinguished career that I won't go into, but you can read about in the chat. And Jodi, along with our larger policy team at the Alliance, has been tracking and digging into this tax credit provision in H.R. 1 for the past several months. So I'm genuinely thrilled that she's joining us today to share her deep understanding of this issue with all of us. And as Jenny said, the logistical note to please put your questions in the Q&A box rather than the chat, because we'll be sharing a bunch of links and other things in the chat, and it may get lost and not answered. So with that, I'll turn this over to you, Jodi.
Terrific. Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here with all of you, and a special thank you to Jenny and Leslie and Anita. And Leslie's going to be helping with the slides. This is a new tax credit scholarship that was part of H.R. 1, which is also known by some as the Big Beautiful Bill, and it is still evolving. So it's a little dense and a little complicated, but more than anything, takeaway that we will share as much information as possible with you today. And as this continues to develop, we will continue to share information to do everything we can so that many of the programs that you're running can serve more students as a result of these scholarships. So we can go to the next slide. So the first thing is what passed. This summer, when the Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1, was passed, it included a provision that allows a taxpayer credit of $1,700 per taxpayer that they can give to a nonprofit that gives out scholarships. To be really clear, these tax credits are not pre-tax dollars. So this is money that you would have given to the IRS. It's your tax liability that instead you're giving to a scholarship granting organization. And so for many taxpayers, there's no harm in this. You're not losing anything. It means the federal treasury is losing money and the money is going into a scholarship granting organization in your state. You should also know that when this original provision was being advanced, it was being advanced very much as a tool modeled after scholarships in Florida for private and parochial schools. It was not on our radar because it did not include after school. So it was not something that we, those of us that, do supplemental support for schools with after school enrichment and other programs, were paying a lot of attention to. Because of the way the Senate works and the nature of the bill, they had to amend it quickly to comply with some of the Senate procedures. And in the process of amending it, they had to go back and find another law that they could change. And that law was how they expand the language. So these scholarships now can be used for a variety of different things, including extended day programs that are offered or required by a school, as well as things like tutoring, transportation, computer equipment that students can use. So as soon as the language got changed, suddenly these light bulbs went off saying this could be a huge opportunity for programs in the after school and in the enrichment space. And I think particularly for STEM-based programs where they're really supplementing what's happening in the classroom, this could be a tremendous way to have teachers, recommending these programs for kids and getting scholarships for our students to attend. Next slide. So this is just one estimate. The estimates are all over the map of how much money this could be. Originally, the estimate was about $1 billion, and that was at the time they thought this would just go to private and parochial schools. There's, different estimates that think, over 120 million taxpayers may be eligible to get these tax credits. So we're talking billions of dollars. And the way this is going to work is it's going to go into effect in 2027. And governors can opt in, but every year, each state will have the opportunity to opt in or not opt into this. Next slide. So, but there's a lot that's left to be resolved, and you should know this is not without red flags. There's many opponents of this new legislation. I think we're taking the attitude at the After School Alliance that we want to be really pragmatic. This legislation has passed, it's the law, it is going to happen in a bunch of places, and then where it's going to happen, we want to do everything we can to get scholarship dollars to go to high quality programs serving the kids that are least able to attend those programs on their own. So really seizing the opportunity and what we think could be billions of dollars, but also recognizing that there are some real concerns that we'll do everything we can to address in the process, and some of which we can, some of which we can't. Right now, where the process is so I know they had some questions like, how do we tap into this? The answer is we don't know yet, but we're trying to put all of the pieces into place so that you can. Right now, the U.S. Department of Treasury is writing regulations, and these regulations will have a huge impact on what scholarships can be offered and how. We and multiple others have already sent our recommendations to Treasury. Sometime this spring, they're going to come out with new recommendations, and we will ask all of you to weigh in to really convince them to craft regulations that make it as easy as possible for our programs to provide scholarships. Once the Treasury, actually it's already happening now, but at any point up to January 1st of 2027, a state can decide to opt into this program. If that's the case, then there'll be scholarships in your state. If your state chooses not to opt in, taxpayers in your state can give money to another state. So that's one of the caveats. So every taxpayer can give money to this, and whether or not it's in their state or another state depends on whether or not their state decides to opt in. And of course, there's going to be a huge messaging piece of this, because if the federal government does their regulations, and let's say you live in a state, I'm going to pick a state that is absolutely opting in, like Texas, then we need to make sure that we have entities in Texas that are giving out scholarships to your programs, and that taxpayers know to give money to those programs, and then have parents apply for them. So it's a lot of steps, but I actually feel pretty confident that we can do all that. Next slide. So I know there are lots and lots of questions, and I will definitely be looking at the Q&A box to answer them, but also please know at the end, continue to join these policy pulses, continue to sign up for our newsletters, because this is constantly evolving, and we will be sharing information as we get it, and also sharing places where your voice is going to really matter in how this is all shaped. Next slide. So who's eligible for a scholarship? It is any student who is eligible to enroll in a K-12 school. And I'm not clear yet if you're eligible to enroll and your school has a pre-K, if that would be included too. So, you don't have to attend that school, so it's available to the 90% of students that go to public schools. It's available to students that go to charter schools. It's available to parochial schools, to private schools. I don't know that it can be used for a homeschool, but it could be used for a homeschool student to attend an after-school program. And the definition of school is whatever the state defines school to be. One of the, interesting pieces and a concern for us as advocates at the Afterschool Alliance is that you can get a scholarship as long as your household income does not exceed 300% of your median area income. So this covers almost every child in America. It's 90% of children. If you live, and it's going to be up to Treasury to define your median area, but if you live in a very wealthy neighborhood, and the median income is $300,000 a family, then you get up to 300% of that. So this scholarship is really going to be available to most students. We want to, at least at the Afterschool Alliance, really prioritize ways to get the funding to the students that need it most. As we know, when we talk about after school, there's 23 million students whose parents want them in after school programs and don't have access. We want to try and target those students to get some of those dollars. And then parents will actually need to apply to get a scholarship for their child. So if you're if your program is looking to give out scholarships, you might say, we hope to give out 10 scholarships, and then, work with one of the scholarship granting organizations to get kids to apply for those scholarships. More to come. Next slide. So there's a lot of things that these scholarships can be used for. As I said, absolutely, and the law was intended to give scholarships to kids to attend private and parochial schools. And that is absolutely, the purpose behind the law and one of the allowable uses. But it also can be used for extended day programs that are required or provided by a school district, for computer technology, for tutoring, for transportation, so for a host of other things. And the real gatekeepers are going to be these nonprofits that are scholarship granting organizations. So in states that opt in, there will be, and we think it's going to be a nonprofit that meets the Treasury requirements, scholarship granting organizations that get to collect the funds and give out scholarships. So this is going to be the key. And for all of you that run programs, finding the right scholarship granting organizations to work with your programs is going to be essential, because they are going to get to select who gets the scholarships, who are the recipients the parents are going to provide scholarships with, who are the providers that they're giving scholarships to their programs, how much money, right? A private school might be $50,000 a year, enrichment program might be $2,500 a year, and they can give all or some of that scholarship. And we don't know yet what federal regulations they may have to follow, and or if there's going to be a state opportunity to put regulations. There's, a bunch of states that would like to make sure that state laws apply to any scholarship recipients. It's unclear to us yet what that's going to look like. Next slide. So I was hinting on this before. It seems really broad right now, the law. So it looks like providers can be nonprofits, for-profits, faith-based, entities, but in the law itself, we definitely need clarity on what a program provided or required by a school means. We are pushing very hard that be loosely based on a school saying, like we partner with this organization. We want it absolutely to include programs at science institutions, at college campuses, at libraries, at museums, at rec centers. So some of that may be left up to scholarship granting organizations to decide. Some of it may be decided by Treasury. Likewise, we're not 100% certain that summer learning will be covered, but we think we should be able to make the case that it is, because many schools provide or require some kind of learning activity. I think some of the new programs where kids get credit for work would almost absolutely be included. And the definition of tutoring is also really broad. So there may be ways to bring in some of our programming because it is, in essence, tutoring. But as I emphasized before, I think that the real gatekeepers are going to be these scholarship granting organizations. And I think right now where we're focused on is we may need to create a bunch of these scholarship granting organizations. How do we all work together to create them so that they give out scholarships to quality programs that we know are already in the community making a difference for our kids? Next slide. So to be a scholarship granting organization, and some of you may be thinking about this, I know we have a lot of people on this call, you need to be a nonprofit. So that's actually a C3, it's pretty broad. Most of us are C3s, but it could also be a community foundation. We know there's actually 4,000 education foundations that work exclusively with school districts. They would qualify. The catch right now is that the law says 90% of your revenue that you take in as a C3 needs to go to these scholarships. And what we don't know is many of us are pushing that it be kind of a walled system where 90% of the money you get for scholarships goes to scholarships. But if it's all revenue, then we're going to need to be thinking about creating some new entities to do this. If it's only the revenue you get for scholarships, I think there's a lot of existing entities that are going to step up and be able to do this. And then you get to keep 10% of those donations for overhead. It has to be a qualified elementary or secondary education expense. And you have to give scholarships to at least 10 students from at least 2 different schools. Again, schools aren't defined. So it could be some people live in areas where, there's one high school and that's your school. And some people might live in a school district with, several hundred high schools. And we're looking to, whether it's Treasury or the states, to define that. And at this point, we don't know which one will do it. Next slide. So right now we are hoping that existing nonprofits are going to be able to be scholarship granting organizations. If not, we're going to be working with them to create them. So a lot of the different intermediaries, whether it's citywide intermediaries, state after-school networks, STEM ecosystems would be great intermediaries, regional networks to become these scholarship granting organizations. And I think that's how we'll really be able to best control getting resources to the most in need students to attend the best possible programs, because I also want to flag that this is happening. And in the states that have already opted in, the private schools and the parochial schools are already set up to have systems to give out scholarships. And I guarantee that there will be new entrants into our space and out of school time that are setting up entities to tap into the system. So if we really want to get money to the programs that are on the ground, we need to be part of this sooner rather than later, because otherwise it will go to other programs. And some of them may be very good programs, but right now we're not really sure how to ensure that there's quality unless we have scholarship granting organizations that are looking at that. Next slide. So this is a map of states that have already said they're going to opt in or opt out. I would not take this as face value because this is all constantly changing. But all of the states in green have announced that they plan to opt in. The states in red have said they will not opt in. I can tell you that even in those states, they're waiting to see what Treasury does, because the governors are very concerned about, money that they can keep in state as opposed to send to the federal government or have people send to a different state. So, and I think this will constantly evolve, and we'll see different things happen in the first year, 2027 versus 2028 and 2029. There's a handful of governors that have already seized this as an opportunity to provide after school and summer. That's what they're using their bully pulpit to say. But again, we're waiting. We don't want to get out too far ahead of ourselves. We just want to be prepared when we have more guidance from the Treasury Department. Next slide. So here's the good news. Will your programs be able to be recipients? I am hopeful that we are an incredibly nimble, flexible, and sophisticated field, and we're going to figure out how to make it possible for many of your programs to be scholarship recipients of kids that use scholarships to go there. The White House, in their most recent paper, explicitly used the word after-school enrichment programs, which is wonderful because the law says extended day, but that's from 1990. So we feel pretty certain that after school is included. The question is, can we extend beyond school-based programs? Can we extend into summer learning programs? And who do we have to make that pitch to? And so right now it's Treasury, but it's likely going to be states or scholarship granting organizations. Another big question is these new scholarship granting organizations or existing organizations, are they going to have to give scholarships to everything that's allowed, or can they have a specialty? I think most of the advocates in this space want to allow scholarship granting organizations to have a specialty. Parochial schools want to be able to raise money for parochial schools. And so I think there's a good chance that we'll be able to create some scholarship granting organizations that are focused exclusively on the out of school time space. And then we can all work together to really have a massive campaign to get taxpayers to donate their dollars to those specific scholarship granting organizations. What a mouthful. Next slide. I'm going to talk about, I think this is really high level up for those of you that are thinking about becoming SGOs, but one of the biggest things we're focused on right now is this idea that 90% of revenues needs to go to scholarships. And honestly, if it's 90% of all revenues, we're going to need to create new organizations to do this. And if it's 90% of revenues that are part of this scholarship tax credit, then we can look to a lot of the existing intermediaries and organizations we have out there already to seamlessly become trusted names and scholarship granting organizations. I would personally love to see community foundations, education foundations that people are already familiar with become these SGOs, but again, that's going to depend on what Treasury decides to do. Next slide. So this is a timeline. This will change, but to the best of our knowledge, we think Treasury is going to come out with its regulations late spring, and then we'll all have a chance to weigh in. We will definitely have sample comments and real comments that you can cut, paste, and use. Final regulations will be released in the early fall. And then it's going to be a question of which states opt in and don't opt in. But if you look at that timeline, that means that scholarship granting organizations for the states that opt in, they're really going to be established by December 2026. So this is why it's so important to be talking about this now, and so important to be developing relationships with entities that we think are going to be giving out these scholarships now and not waiting till the fall when it may be, the ship may have sailed. Next slide. So what can you do? We absolutely need your voices, the examples of your programs. When Treasury opens up a comment period, we want examples of why the kinds of programs that you're offering are ones that should absolutely be covered under this tax credit, and what Treasury needs to do to make sure that they are. If your state has opted in, then reach out to your governors, reach out to either organizations that either are or could become or create SGOs to make sure that you're going to be part of that list. And if your state hasn't opted in, I would still make sure you're on your governor's radar, as if they make a decision to opt in, that this is the kind of program that they could be funding. Because I think we are hearing that, some of the states that, even the ones that have said no, are really wondering about, how many billions of dollars this could mean keeping in their treasury, and may down the road change their mind. And it's also always a good opportunity just to educate policymakers about the value of the programs that are happening for our kids. Next slide. So this is how you can get updates on this evolving brand new law that we think could put billions of dollars into our field. Please sign up. Please know that we are looking at this with an eye towards how do we make this a resource to expand opportunities. Obviously, we're the After School Alliance, but we are also really interested in high quality STEM opportunities across the board, whether they're part of a comprehensive program or not, and making sure that, the programs that we know that are out there, that are trusted, that have data showing that they're effective, are the ones that we're getting our students to attend. I think we have one more slide.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jodi. This is such helpful information. And I know we only have 3 minutes left, so just 1 or 2 questions. I know we only do 30-minute webinars, so fast and really quick. But Jodi, you kind of alluded to this, but what should after school and summer programs be doing specifically in the next 12 to 18 months? Looking forward to hopefully being able to take part in this opportunity.
So obviously sign up for our alerts. If you're not already working with your state network, get on their radar. Because I think it's going to be a lot of advocacy and not necessarily lobbying advocacy, but advocacy, communications, letting people know about our work. And so I think, be ready to be talking about this. I think there's going to come a time where in those next 18 months, you need to be reaching out to your parents and your communities to be, identifying where we want dollars to go and getting people to apply. But I think the number one thing right now too is, I would say, actually, this is big. If you have funders in the philanthropic world, let them know that you think you can benefit from this, because I think we're going to need philanthropy to step up and help us create scholarship granting organizations that will then be able to leverage these tax dollars for programs. I don't think we can do it on our own, and that's a really important role that they can play in the next 12 months, so that then we can get the right scholarship granting organizations that know all of you to be giving out those scholarships.
Thanks so much, Jodi. And I know I'm so sorry we're not able to answer everyone's questions, but follow us and you can email us with questions too. We'd be happy to get back with you. I know some have been answered in the chat, or in the Q&A rather. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jenny to close this out. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for this insightful discussion on the policy landscape affecting STEM education and workforce development. We hope you've gained valuable perspectives and actionable strategies from our conversations. We'll continue this important dialogue with critical insights about top STEM priorities and more guidance on navigating the current advocacy landscape. To learn more about the work of STEM Education Coalition, Afterschool STEM Hub, and STEM ecosystems, please visit our websites. Until next time, keep advocating for a strong STEM education and workforce nationwide.